No one who is committing fraud would explicitly write it down and then submit it in an arts course and be like, yeah, it's fine. I'm so infuriated. If I had to pay for this, I would have felt a little cheated. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are going to be curing my reading slump by reading my most anticipated fall 2024 books. So first up on the list, we have A Dark and Drowning Tide. This is a sapphic rivals to lovers romantasy book, and I have seen some really positive things about this online. I mentioned this in my previous video, I think, as being on my TBR, but regardless, I decided to just bite the bullet, get a copy on my Kindle, and start reading it. So I'm already a little bit into the book at this point, and I have been recording my thoughts and opinions on this, so you're going to be seeing them shortly. And other than that, I have a few other books that I'm thinking of reading. I think I want to read the Housemaid short story that is coming out this month. It is supposed to be Christmassy, and it's by Frida McFadden, one of the most well-known and popular crime/thriller authors. She has a lot of books on Kindle Unlimited, so I mean, not to promote Kindle Unlimited too hard, but I do think it's very useful for getting a lot of books for a very cheap price. So I would definitely recommend checking out her books if you haven't already. I love the Housemaid series, and I'm really hoping that I will enjoy this short story by her. I am also in the middle of listening to an audiobook of Januaries by Olivia Blake, and this is a short story collection. I know I'm reading a lot of short stories this month, but I think that having that kind of satisfaction of finishing something small might be able to help me stay motivated to get out of this slump. So I'm going to be listening to that. I'm also halfway through The Stars Too Fondly. I believe I was at the 60% mark. I'm really struggling to finish this book. I can't tell if I should just DNF it or if it's worth it for me to continue reading. It does have good ratings, but like for me personally, I'm just not able to click with most of the characters. Cleo is in this weird situation where she seems to be in love with someone who doesn't really like have a body or exist properly. But genuinely, it is a bit frustrating trying to continue this book because a lot of the characters are just very all over the place. It feels like there are things happening, but at the same time, a lot of this science-y talk is kind of going over my head, so it's not particularly interesting to me. I think my issue is just that this book isn't as exciting or as interesting as I thought it would be. I also have 100 pages left in The Examiner by Janice Hallett. Now, this is a book that I was very excited to read, and I actually bought it in Waterstones in the UK a week after it came out. I have my hard copy right here, so yeah, I took off the dust jacket because I don't know if anyone else does this, but I don't like reading with the dust jacket on. I feel like it gets in the way of me turning the pages, and so this is so much easier for me. The thing is though that once I started reading this book, I was kind of disappointed. I feel like the pacing is very slow, and a lot of the things that happen are kind of bizarre. At first I was annoyed because the students on this course are clearly not that interested in art, and there is a lot that is deliberately obscured from the reader, and I understand why, because of course it's a mystery, so that's the point, but it's a little bit on the nose with how confusing it becomes, and just this inability to figure out what exactly is going on was really starting to bother me. I think it's one thing to have a very clear plot, but to have things happening behind the scenes that the reader isn't aware of. But in this case, it's just non-stop. A strange thing happens and you're just left wondering, like, why? Like, you just like, you're just confused, and it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not like exciting or compelling the way her previous book was. I was a big fan of her Albert and Angel's book, which came out before this, I believe, and I loved it so much. I got it in Oxford and I was super excited to read it, but yeah, I don't know why this isn't working for me. I'm so frustrated. The last half of the book really picks up, which is such a relief because thank God. I was seriously thinking about DNFing it, even though I have this gorgeous hard copy. And to be honest, if I buy a physical book, I find it very hard to DNF. I feel like I should read it just for the sole fact that I've purchased this like monster. And so the story is picking up and a lot of things are starting to make more sense now. Even though we're actually finding out what's going on now, I am still annoyed with how the first, I don't know, 80% of the book was, because I think that this could have just been written in a different way. I'm also again having the same problem with connecting with the characters. In this case, it's because the book is written in the style where you have all these different fragments from conversations and notes from the coursework and assignments that they submit on the art course that they're on. And so because we're only seeing the transcripts of dialogue and we're not actually seeing how the character behaves, it becomes very difficult to feel some sort of emotional connection with them. And we also can't really see their intimate thoughts and feelings as much. To be honest, it's a bit strange because sometimes the characters are talking about their feelings and thoughts in the form of the essays that they're submitting on this course. And there is a very flimsy justification given that like they want to process their feelings, or they feel like it doesn't matter if they put these things into an essay because the tutor is just going to delete it, or she won't actually submit the essay so that, or she won't allow the essay to go on a public record where anyone can read it. But the fact of the matter is that these are not journal entries. These are things that students are submitting on a course, and as someone who has done 2 degrees, I cannot imagine writing down my very personal thoughts and submitting it to my tutor, even if I believed that she would not do anything with it. Like, even if I believed that she would keep it to herself, I wouldn't do that. And I can't imagine that the people in this book are so stupid to do that as well, because a lot of the stuff that they put in those essays is incriminating. And that's the reason why it's included as part of the files, as part of the evidence that you, the reader, are now going through in order to figure out what has happened. The author just conveniently gives some very silly reasons for why certain things happen, and these just seem like plot holes to me. I think that she wanted to write the book in this specific format, but it might not be working for me, or it might not be working in general. And finally, we have an optional book that I'm not sure if I'm going to get around to reading in this vlog, but it sounds really good and I've been lusting after this one because it just looks so cute. The book is This Fatal Kiss, and it's a dark and flirty polyamorous romance, to quote Goodreads blurbs, and it's very cute. We have a cursed water nymph who falls for a spirit hunter, I believe, and the book cover is really pretty and I want to get the paperback for it, but I'm not really sure if I'm 100% going to love it. I used to have a policy that I wouldn't buy books unless I actually really enjoyed them as an ebook, and I mean, this is a mixed bag because I haven't been rereading books in a couple of years, probably longer. Ever since I got Goodreads and started being more active online, because I used to have a book blog when I was in high school, I just discovered so many new books that I wanted to read, and it just meant that I didn't have the patience to like return to my old favorites or even just reread books that I think have a really good and important message. But after having read a few physical books that were really disappointing recently, including The Examiner, which I am still trying to finish, so I'm just not sure if I should go for it and get more books right now. Just a heads up that there will be a few spoilers in this vlog. I will make sure to let you guys know before I say anything that is a spoiler, and also you can look down in the description below to check where the spoilers are and to skip ahead in the video. I'm going to give my final thoughts and reviews on all of the books at the end, so if you just want to find out what my overall experience was and whether I recommend a book, feel free to skip to the end. Thank you guys for joining me on this wild ride, for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate you all so much, and let's get reading! So I'm reading at like midnight. Honestly, it's really good so far. I'm just like amused by how there's already drama. I'm whispering because everyone is like asleep right now, but it's just interesting because like the main character, Lorelai, she's already like upset about Sylvia, another character, trying to tame this Nixie because like her timing is so bad. Basically right now the characters are about to attend this ball, and it's for the send-off for this great expedition that they're all going on, and it's just terrible timing for Lorelai to be pulling this stunt. I love how seamlessly the world building is being integrated into the narrative, even just off the bat. We're finding out a lot about how these characters are part of these provinces that were resisting the unification of the country, because we have a ruler who is trying very hard to conquer all these different places and unify them under one banner. But of course, like, these are different people with different religions and cultures, and I love how similar it is to like the real world in that sense. But also, I mean, I'm not sure if this is based on a real world counterpart, because the characters, I want to say that the characters have kind of European names, or that the states seem European, but I'm really not sure what the inspiration was for the author, and that's really fascinating me right now. The thing that I find really interesting is that we have characters who are doing magical research. So like Sylvia, for instance, right? She publishes these stories of her adventures with the Wilderlute, and these are travel logs, but it's just the skepticism that the other character, Lorelai, has, is that there's no empirical evidence and it's not very scientific. And it's just really interesting to hear about science being used in the context of like a story where magic exists, and just the fact that like anecdotal evidence is being called out as insufficient. Hey guys, it's the next night and I actually went rogue and I got a few Christmas releases on my Kindle. There have been some amazing Kindle Unlimited books that I have been really excited to read. So, okay, this is a bit of a spoiler for my Christmassy books reading vlog video, but I got How My Neighbor Stole Christmas and If This Was a Movie to read in that vlog. I'm really excited, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think of the vlog as well, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas of like good books to read. But yeah, so I got The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter as well. I'm honestly feeling really humbled today. I never thought about how much work full-time content creators have to put into their videos, and I just have so much respect for anyone who does this in any capacity. I spent the whole day editing a single YouTube video that was literally 10 minutes long for my channel. I've been thinking about it and I realized that I want to post maybe twice a week if that's possible, and so here I am. It's literally midnight. I'm trying to film a reading vlog and I am struggling to make progress with this book as well. I feel like there are enough hours in the day. I spent over 6 hours just tapping away at my laptop. Yeah, so I am struggling to make it out of my reading slump. I thought that it would be really easy to just finish this book. My plan was to just finish it in a few days, but this is already probably like the 4th or 5th day since I started this book, and yeah, progress is slow. I am at the 15% mark. 20%, wow, that was ambitious of me. Yeah, I'm at the 15% mark. Not as high as I wanted it to be, but I am really enjoying it so far. I can't get over how gorgeous Alison Saff's descriptions are. This is something that struck me when I read her previous book, and it's just really sticking with me again, because there are such lush, beautiful, stunning images that she captures with her words, and I want to write like this. Honestly, this is the best inspiration that I could have hoped for my own book. That said, I am making steady progress on the Januaries. I am loving this short story collection so much. I know I must be singing its praises like constantly, but when I was reading one of Olivia Blake's other books, it just didn't, it just didn't impress me in the way that this book is. I was honestly a bit surprised by all of the hype surrounding her writing, and so going into this book, I had kind of moderate expectations. You know, I didn't want to be like, oh, this is gonna be amazing, because historically for me, her writing style has been a bit of a miss rather than a hit, and I can see why so many people love her stories. I really do. I think there is something very compelling about the way that she writes, but you know, we're not always the target audience for every book or every author, and so yeah, I think Januaries is the right book for me. It is really hard to talk about these short stories without spoiling anything, but I will say that I am currently listening to the one where there is this man and he ends up falling for this woman who is a nobleman's daughter, and she is kind of too good for him, but her father is actually kind of poor despite their status in society. And so their marriage is arranged, and I think he is the blacksmith's son. So they actually sneak off together, and it's kind of cute. They have this like moonlit rendezvous beside the well, but unfortunately an accident happens and their romance takes a sudden and unexpected turn. I really want to discuss spoilers in case there are some of you guys who have read or listened to the short story collection, so spoilers, please click ahead by a few minutes and continue watching the rest of the vlog. Thank you so much. Okay, spoilers, brace yourself. Basically, these two characters get caught up in this cycle of trying to murder each other. They are invincible for some reason. Honestly, the magic system is very loose in the short story collection. She chooses not to go into a lot of detail, which is completely valid. I actually really respect that she does that, because you know, I don't care that we don't know the specifics. It's just really entertaining to read these kinds of stories where the unexpected happens. Anything is possible. And so the insane thing is that in this story, they're both coming back to life. They're both reanimated every time they die, and it doesn't seem to matter whether they're killing each other or if they die from, say, natural circumstances. But it's just really interesting because they have this like intense, like, I want to say romantic tension more than sexual tension, because there isn't a lot of explicit sexual descriptions in this book, but it's so good, you guys. The way they keep killing each other is just so entertaining. The descriptions are so graphic sometimes, but not in a triggering way. I think the violence is easy to digest and look past in favor of just appreciating the fact that these characters have a very toxic romance going on, and I think that's what makes it entertaining. You know, this is a love story where they're both in the wrong. Neither of them are especially good people, but I think they've also been horribly impacted by the circumstances they've been put in. And I mean, in terms of the guy, I think that he is more to blame, but the woman is definitely equally problematic in a lot of these situations, and so they're just incredibly flawed individuals. There is this one scene in which they're both making out and she literally stabs him in the back with a knife. I mean, iconic. So iconic, okay? I can't even. I love this book. I will say that so far, the first story where the main character has to work as a kind of guardian spirit for people who wish to make a certain request on this magical bridge is what resonated the most with me. She's able to grant wishes to travelers who come to the bridge, and she essentially facilitates the magic that takes place there. But she isn't allowed to leave the bridge, and when the bridge disappears, she also ceases to exist. And I found it just very sad how her purpose is tied to this place, to this magical object, but she also wants to live a life beyond that. I think it would resonate with a lot of people who are doing jobs or careers that they aren't especially passionate about, but that they feel that they have to do because they don't have a choice, or because it just seems like the only path that makes sense to them at that point. As someone who is trying very hard not to end up in a position where I am like the girl on the bridge, you know, watching everyone else live their lives and wishing I could leave. I felt like it was a very good cautionary tale for me. I am going to get back to reading and let you guys know my thoughts tomorrow. She's struggling so hard. I feel so bad for Lorelai. Oh my god. I have worked in some truly atrocious teams in my time, and I know how hard it can be to lead a group sometimes. Like, people will just not want to listen to you. They will do whatever they want. Like, not to be mean, but it can be a struggle sometimes, and I really feel for her, especially because everyone is so mean to her based on her race and her ancestry. Like, these are things she can't control. I guess this is basically the fantasy world equivalent of racism, but it is really shitty to see it playing out because she's just so talented, and the fact that she can use magic means that all of their beliefs about her and what she's capable of are completely wrong and misled, and I just want to see her prove these people, you know, they deserve to have their beliefs thrown in their faces and proved wrong, and I cannot wait for this girl to do it. As usual, I've ended up spending most of the day editing for YouTube, but I decided to settle down with my book to read a little earlier today. I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule. I don't know if it's gonna happen in the course of this vlog or even this month, but fingers crossed we will get there. Regardless, I decided to get a little short story that just came out today. It's called The Housemaid's Wedding by Frida McFadden. I know I am in the middle of another book already, and in fact, as you will find out over the course of this vlog, I am in the middle of multiple books that I desperately need to finish. That said though, I was also in a reading slump and kind of still am, and so I'm hoping that reading something that is apparently only going to take me an hour and 43 minutes to finish will help me get over that slump and give me the motivation to finish the larger books that are currently on my TBR / currently reading shelves. I am a huge fan of the Housemaid series. Frida McFadden became one of my favorite authors this year. I think everyone has been raving about her so much, and there is a very good reason. I was so skeptical because I don't usually like reading mystery or thriller books, but I picked up the Housemaid series and I was literally reading it over the course of a train ride. Like, I finished it in a single day. I was so obsessed that I stayed up until 2 a.m. and that wasn't just because, you know, insomnia or whatever. Like, I genuinely wanted to finish the book. And so I'm really hoping this short story is going to deliver and be the 5-star read that I desperately need right now. It's really interesting because all the blurb says in the Amazon Kindle description here for the book is, "Today is supposed to be the happiest day of my life." That is so ominous, I can't even. Okay, so just some context because it looks like the author's note actually explains the purpose of this short story. She says, "I wrote The Housemaid's Wedding as a short story to fill in the long gap between book 2 and book 3. I was worried the readers might feel cheated that they never got to see Millie and Enzo tie the knot, so here it is. It can be read between book 2 and 3 or after book 3, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm so excited. I actually was disappointed that we didn't get to see the wedding sequence in the books. I remember being kind of surprised when I opened, I think it was the second book, and I was like, wait, they're married now? I was honestly so thrown. I had to like go back to the first book and check if I missed something because I was like, did I hallucinate a wedding? Like, when did this happen? It was really bothering me. So now I'm like so glad that, you know, we're gonna get back in it. The prologue literally begins with, "This man is going to kill me." I have a good feeling about this. I think Frida is going to eat with this one. She's going to slay, and I cannot wait. Something that cracks me up is the fact that Frida McFadden is always describing Enzo like a romance writer would for the love interest. It's just so funny because it's like his black hair is sticking up and he's got a day's worth of stubble on his jaw. It's just so dramatic, and I've noticed this as well in some of her other books, and it just always makes me laugh. Like, he sounds amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's almost a little exaggerated because, like, the top muscles in his chest, good God, like, how is this man real? Do I feel like this is info dumping? Yes. Do I care? I guess not as much as I would usually. I really am just excited to be getting the Enzo and Millie wedding that I've been anticipating forever, literally. I wanted to read this short story so bad. I do feel, however, like this could be written better. I don't mean to be overly critical, but it does feel like the quality is not what I've come to expect from this author. I know she puts out multiple books every year, or possibly like a book a year, and so it would make sense why she just hasn't been able to maybe like write everything to like a really high standard. But yeah, I don't know, this is not as captivating or as compelling as her books usually are for me. Me an hour ago talking about how I was going to fix my bedtime. I didn't do it, you guys, but I'm halfway through this book and I am so infuriated. I know it's a short story, so okay, fine, but I think the pacing is all off. Like, we have 20 minutes left to finish this, and Melly still hasn't told Enzo about the threatening phone calls that she's getting. Basically, she's being harassed by this strange man who is a husband of one of the women that she helped save. He's pissed off, he wants to kill her, and she hasn't told anyone. And her justification for this is that it's her wedding day and she's obviously afraid of ruining that and, I don't know, getting it postponed. She wants to marry Enzo, she wants to do it today. I totally understand her concerns as an anxious girly myself, and honestly, Millie is really giving off the anxious energy in this short story, so I get it. Believe me, I get it. But I think she's being so stupid right now. It doesn't make any sense for her to not confide in Enzo, who she trusts so much. He is the one decent man in all of these books. You know, he is the guy who isn't, you know, abusive or problematic or doing any kind of horrible thing to a woman. She trusts him, and I just can't believe that when it comes down to it, she's not telling him. I know her intuition is pretty important, and she's being pretty dismissive of this threat as though it's not a big deal, but at the same time, you know, the author is putting enough emphasis on this, so it clearly is a big deal, and it's just weird for the character to just be so unwilling to acknowledge what is going on. I also made the mistake of checking the average Goodreads rating, and considering that this book has only been out for, I don't know, half a day or one day so far, it's crazy how low the ratings and reviews are. Like, I don't understand why it's just in the gutter right now, considering that not even that many people have read it yet. Like, what am I missing? Does this story just not get better? Like, I'm glad it's so short, because otherwise I would get the distinct feeling that I'm wasting my time, but I just refuse to believe that this is a bad story. Like, I don't want it to be true. I have to say it, something is seriously wrong with her mother. Like, what the actual hell? Just what the hell? Okay, so it's 1 a.m. I've propped you up on my little nest of blankets. I've got my penguin. Honestly, that was a very disappointing short story, and I am giving it 2 stars. I'm giving it 2 stars. That rating might change in the morning when I think this through, but right now I'm feeling very frustrated with how that story turned out. Real brief, I'm going to give some spoilers, so spoilers, please return to the video after a few minutes if you don't want to be spoiled for anything that happens in the story. Basically, Enzo ends up finding the man who's been stalking and harassing Millie on their wedding day, and he just confronts him in the bathroom, beats him up, you know, threatens him, reminds him who's in charge, etc., etc. It's a very badass move. I have a lot of respect for Enzo for doing this. Believe me, I think it genuinely makes a lot of sense that he is going out of his way to defend and protect Millie, but it was very anticlimactic. I think that you get sold on this idea that there's going to be a scene where Millie actually interacts with the man who has been harassing her. I expected a bit more build up, tension, maybe even a little bit of violence, you know, some sort of physical interaction where Millie is actually in a situation that justifies the way the story begins, because there is no payoff. We're constantly on the edge of our seat waiting for something to happen, you know, waiting for her to approach the man who's been harassing her all day, and then nothing, absolutely nothing. All we get is Enzo beating the shit out of a guy who is clearly his inferior, and there is no struggle, there is nothing. The climax is basically non-existent, and it happens at the very end of the story, so we get like a few pages of this and then it's done. The story's over. So that's how I feel about it. Real quick, I just want to give some non-spoilery thoughts while this is fresh in my mind. I think that if you are a huge fan of the Housemaid series, you might still want to pick this up, mainly if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, because like I did read this for free, and if I had to pay for this, I would have felt a little cheated. I gotta be honest, I don't think it's worth actually buying and reading separately because it's so short and barely anything happens. The actual marriage ceremony itself isn't particularly interesting or exciting. I think Millie herself spends a lot of the story being disappointed about the fact that she's just having a courthouse wedding, and believe me, I understand her disappointment. Like, I'm not married, of course, but if I was getting married, this is not what I would imagine for myself either. They literally have to get some random guy whose sister she helped to be the witness for the wedding, and the whole thing is just very disappointing, you know. Millie is so excited about being married to Enzo, but she spends a lot of time basically complaining about the fact that this wedding is happening in a way that's just not up to her expectations. And while that's completely fair, it also means that the story itself is not that interesting, you know. The fact that there is very little payoff and climax and actual interesting conflict going on just solidifies my belief that this isn't really a story that is worth picking up unless you are truly a major fan of the series, and again, you're able to get it for free. And if you just wanted more housemaid content, you know, I guess it can't hurt to check it out. Maybe you will enjoy it more than I did. It was definitely satisfying to finish it, if nothing else, because like I said, I've been in a reading slump and I wanted to finish something, so finishing a short story is better than nothing in my book. I think I'm still leaning towards giving it 2 stars. I really think that Frida McFadden could have put more effort into this. It's also not that wintry or Christmassy. I thought it would be based on the Goodreads blurb because it was described as a, I think, like wintry short story, but it could be taking place at any time of the year, and I don't think that this is necessarily something you should also read if you're looking for a wintry story either. Something that I have realized since I started filming and just becoming much more active on like Instagram and YouTube is like, I think I'm a very slow reader, and that's not to say that I'm not like capable of reading, I don't know, 10 or even I guess 15 books a month. When I was much younger, I actually used to read around 150 books a year, and that was like, I don't know, that was something that I was like really proud of as like a achievement for my Goodreads goal. But like, you know, as I've gotten older, my reading speed and I guess the time that I'm able to put towards reading has significantly decreased. Like, this isn't the only thing that I do all day anymore. As an only child, I had a lot of free time to myself, and I just like ended up using a lot of that to like read instead of like just doing anything else. Like, reading was like my only hobby when I was growing up, and so I guess I'm trying to be more gentle with myself, recognizing that I might not be hitting the goals that I set for myself, and that's okay. In fact, like, this is the reason that I set a more like reasonable goal this time. I decided to read like 50 books this year, and I actually hit that goal like last month, but this is why I'm like, okay, I should just be realistic for myself, and I was glad that I did that because I didn't want to get to December and just be hard on myself for no reason. Like, something that other people have talked about online is just the fact that like, it's crazy that reading is this hobby where people are just constantly like comparing themselves to others and just discussing like, oh, we have to read like so many books in a month or in a week or in a day, and there's just so much more pressure compared to like other hobbies.
These wings were made to keep me in one place. I'm free, I'm finally breaking down your cage. Just like the birds when they chase the breeze, I'll fly away. I'll fly away. I'll fly away. Well, I can only take you in doses. Baby, my heart exploded. You got me fucked up loaded all night. Lost in translation, we're waiting for things to fall back in their place. Maybe we just need our space. I can't stay. These wings were made to keep me in one place. I'm free, I'm finally breaking down your cage. Just like the birds when they chase the breeze, I'll fly away. I'll fly away. I'll fly away.
Hey guys, it's Sunday and I just got back from running some errands, and I'm having a very slow reading week. I expected to be so much more productive in terms of reading this week, but in terms of the other things that I've gotten done, I've actually managed to edit multiple videos and post them as well, and so I'm feeling pretty satisfied with that. I have reached the 40% mark in A Dark and Drowning Tide, and it is getting really, really good. I wanted to read out some of the quotes that have been sticking with me and explain why they've just made such an impact on me. So one of the quotes is, "Lorelai knew what it was like when your mind was still fighting its own wars, ones that had ended long ago for everyone else." And I think that just captures anxiety so well. The reason this is in the book is that Lorelai has some form of PTSD, I believe. She has trauma associated with an event that happened a long time ago, and it really bothers her, and so she sometimes has these panic attacks, which I think it's really interesting how that's explored in the book. A lot of the characters have fought in wars, and they are soldiers as well as magic wielders, and so it makes sense that they have perhaps some trauma or some issues associated with that, and those are also struggles that we see depicted on the page. I also really like the tension between Lorelai and Sylvia. There's this one quote where Sylvia asks Lorelai, "Have you read my books?" and Lorelai snaps, "Of course not, I have better things to do with my time." It's really entertaining because Lorelai has a lot of criticisms of Sylvia's works, but reading them is what enables her to save her own life in a situation where she doesn't know what to do and there's no one there to help her. And it's just really interesting how there's just that contrast in the fact that Sylvia's works actually prove useful. It's also been a disappointing reading week because I didn't really like the new Frida McFadden short story, and I'm not really looking forward to finishing the other 2 books on my TBR for this vlog. I technically started them a few weeks ago or a few months ago, but yeah, reading them is going very slowly, so I'm low-key dreading that, and I'm not sure how that's going to go. Hopefully it won't be a DNF, but stay tuned. Other than that, on my errands today, I ended up grabbing a new MAC lipstick. I'm actually wearing it in this video. I don't know how to feel about the shade, but regardless, here it is. It was on sale because there's a sale going on in Sogo in Causeway Bay right now, and so I got the MAC 668 Forever Curious shade. It's a matte lipstick and it looks like this. And next, the other thing I got is a SanDisk portable SSD 2TB hard drive, and this is for storing my vlog footage and just the raw media that I am collecting for making these YouTube videos. I discovered that Final Cut Pro actually takes a lot of space for rendering files and for editing, and I had no idea because I have not done this before or used this software at any point in my life. And so I got really stressed out because my laptop was running out of space. It already has 1 terabyte on the hard disk, but I've been using computers for a while now, and so I keep transferring my files from previous laptops to my new laptop, and so I didn't have a lot of storage left in it when I started using it. I really needed a hard disk, and I'm hoping this will do the trick. I will let you guys know how that turns out for me. Time to go and get back into reading again. I've decided to use the Forest app to try and improve my productivity because I'm honestly struggling to avoid going on my phone and check social media. I really never used to struggle with this as much, but since making a bookstagram, I always feel tempted to see what everyone else is reading, and I really like seeing all of those updates in my feed. But yeah, I definitely want to make more progress on my TBR for this vlog. I will hopefully finish A Dark and Drowning Tide in the next day or 2. I finally finished reading another book for my reading vlog. It is called The Examiner, and please bear in mind that I only had 100 pages left to finish when I started this vlog, but yes, I'm so relieved that this is done because it was not good. I found it really hard to suspend my disbelief for a lot of what happened in this story. For instance, the beginning has so much secrecy about what is actually going on, and by the end, it's just evolved into this mess of conspiracy theory sounding concepts. So these students are just telling each other what is going on in situations where they don't need to be, and I don't fully understand why. It seems really obvious that the author is just using them to convey significant plot elements to the reader, and I really hate when that happens. I feel like it just lacks subtlety as a strategy for revealing information or for conveying certain plot points. It's much better to see these things happening and to make sense of them ourselves, but because of the way the story is structured, you can't do that. You have to make sense of what is happening by solely relying on the information that is provided in these files. And I say files in that way because these files are so dubious. No one who is committing fraud, or I don't know, I'm using fraud as an example, but literally doing anything illegal would explicitly write it down and then submit it in an arts course and be like, yeah, it's fine, the tutor is just going to get rid of it, so I'm just going to spill the tea, spill all the secrets, and it doesn't matter. And the next thing you know, those files are part of this official investigation going on, and it's just helping to expose everyone who was involved in this situation. And I feel like it was part of their downfall in a way, because you have literal written proof from the person saying that they did X thing. I found it hard to become emotionally invested in this story because I just found these characters to be so insufferable. I'm not usually someone who explicitly cares about whether a character is likable or not, but I do think it would have made me want to actually read about their lives more if I just, I don't know, cared about them. Call me crazy, but just an annoying character, it just makes you want to put a book down, you know, at least for me. I just couldn't stand it. Sometimes Jem would just behave in the most obnoxious way possible, and even realizing that like, oh, she just like literally is missing so many details, which is a realization that I came to later on, even that didn't help me just care even more. I just felt like annoyed with her. I'm so eager to read whatever the author writes next. I loved her Operation Angels book, and I am so surprised that this one didn't go over well with me, but you know what? Maybe this isn't the book for me. Fingers crossed. I actually like the next one. There is a bit of the next book in this book, actually, like at the end of the hardback, and I am tempted to read it, but I'm in such a bad mood right now that I almost don't want to risk prematurely hating it. I think I'm just going to let things simmer down and see how I feel at a later point. All things considered, it probably makes sense that I wasn't in the best mindset returning to The Stars Too Fondly. And yeah, I ended up DNFing it. I have some notes here, and for me, I think there are a few reasons, you know, the fact that they're stuck on a spaceship, and there are so many scenes where Cleo is just bored, and you know what? I was bored with her. Totally valid, girl. I was done. And there's a lot of sci-fi talk which just blends together, you know. I'm not someone who cares a lot about like the fake science of how things work, and I think for me the really good science fiction books are ones that make it more accessible to understand that knowledge. They just present the information in a way that even readers who are not that into sciencey stuff can make sense of it, or they place a lot more emphasis on the characters and other aspects of the story, which means that I can just sort of forget about the things that aren't really making any sense to me. Like, I'm just going to believe the author when they talk about like the wormholes and the matter and the space and the things. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure you've done your research, and I just want to have a good time. I'm here to enjoy the book, not think about the science super deeply. I couldn't find myself connecting with the characters in this book either. I know that this is very subjective, so I'm not blaming the writing or anything, but once the initial spark of excitement died down, I was just kind of tired, and I also found these characters a little annoying at times. I don't know if this is just a trend, but I gotta say, like, I don't feel this way about every book I'm reading. I've been jumping around a fair bit, so I'm still in the middle of A Dark and Drowning Tide, and that book is not giving me these feelings at all. I am 100% enjoying it. It's 100% 5 stars for me, so I don't want to be too much of like a grumpus about the books that I don't like, you know. Just trying to balance that out by saying that I don't think that it's just my mindset. I think The Stars Too Fondly also isn't a good book for me. I also have a few complaints about the romance not really being there that much. I think this is about setting expectations, because if you think that there is going to be a romance in a book, then you expect there to be a lot more progression, and I got to the 60% mark in A Stars Too Fondly before I put it down, and honestly there wasn't a lot happening besides just pining and, I mean, like one sex dream. Which, like, good for her, but like, she's literally, the love interest is barely present physically, let's say. Like, there are some complications on that part, and their conversations are fine, but I don't know, I wasn't really feeling the chemistry. I think if I'm looking at two characters interacting and saying that it's just fine, then something must be missing, you know, or it's not making me feel anything the way it should be. I do read books that aren't romance novels, obviously, so I don't want to hate on a book for not having a romance, but you know, in the blurb it sounded like it would be a bigger part of the story, and yeah, I think if that's what you're expecting, probably don't pick this up. I do want to say that one of the biggest reasons I DNF'd this was that I just didn't care about how the story was going to end. I was reading it to finish it, and I could feel that in myself. Every time I looked at my Kindle, I was like, oh, not that book. Not that book, please. Like, I know I need to get it done, but I don't want to. And so, yeah, this is a DNF, guys. Hopefully we are going to actually make it through A Dark and Drowning Tide and finish another book for this vlog, because, yeah, we need some wins. Their pining lacks so much subtlety. Oh my god. Also, Lorelai. It shouldn't matter to her that Sylvia had feelings for someone. This isn't even a spoiler because I'm pretty sure that it's like massive miscommunication. Like, I just don't believe it. My girl Sylvia, she's not gonna do this to Lorelai. Okay, I get it. Everyone is as obsessed as I am because 5 highlighters? Yes, that is so true. I love this moment so much because after everything that Lorelai has been through, she deserves someone who says words like, "I'll keep you safe." But what really bothers me is how badly Lorelai has been treating Sylvia. Like, she's been so awful to her. Honestly, like, I'm just so impressed that Sylvia is actually just being kind and decent and like bubbly and stuff around her. Like, that's something that I don't even fully get because like literally like Lorelai is so mean to her sometimes. Like, I don't know, it really is starting to bother me because I thought at first like Sylvia is not a good person, but I think that she is, and I think that's just who she is. And it's like derision is just, that's exactly how Lorelai is always reacting to her. I don't know, I'm at this point where I'm like, maybe Sylvia is the one who deserves better. Hey guys, I am getting out of the house to finish reading A Dark and Drowning Tide in a cafe today. We're gonna go to Starbucks, get cozy, and hopefully finish this book for this vlog so that I can have another win. I'll see you on the other end. Okay, so I got to 85% and it always takes me so much effort to force myself to leave the house to read, but once I do, I'm glad I did it because like I really needed this break. I feel like with a hobby like reading, it's so easy. Oh my god, it's loud out here. It's so easy to just be like, oh, I'm just gonna like stay home and like sit in bed all day. And like, believe me, I have those days for sure. But the nice thing about this is that I can also just like go outside and make some progress in a cafe and feel good about myself for that. I did it, you guys. I found a book to cure my reading slump, and yes, it is A Dark and Drowning Tide. I got home from Starbucks and I just ended up finishing this. Of course, I had to take a little break for dinner, but now it's night and we are done. We are finished, guys. It was amazing. I love this so much. The ending was so satisfying. We had some amazing sequences where we get to see intense wielding of magic, you know, just these cool effects and powers being displayed. I also really like how the consequences of empire are being critiqued in this book. As a Yemeni, I want to say that I'm saying that right. Lorelai makes a lot of decisions that have to do with protecting herself and her people because they are essentially treated as second-class citizens. They're forced to live within this walled section of the city, and there are curfews, and she grows up with this horrible trauma because her brother was actually murdered by some men for sport. They just did this casual cruelty out of fun, and she's forced to live with whatever happened that day, and it really comes to define her because she wants to make sure that no more blood is spilled, you know, and that protectiveness and that fierceness is what really defines her as a character. I think it's so beautiful to see a woman who is so flawed and yet so strong. There are places in the story where her actions are truly deplorable. I would not say that I'm completely supporting her, but I do understand and sympathize with her, and I think that's what makes the writing so powerful. I also really like how the politics overlaps with the romance. It doesn't feel disingenuous. Instead, it's very organic and it really mirrors the real world, especially with how we can see that race and identity can affect the way a relationship forms and develops. And I like seeing those conversations play out on the page because it just makes it feel so much more realistic in a way. So to recap, I read 3 books, including a short story, and I DNF'd one. And I did not end up finishing The Januaries by Olivia Blake, but I'm not ditching it. I'm just still listening to it. I decided that this audiobook would take me a lot longer to finish than I originally anticipated, and I didn't want to rush my way through it. I think something that we should all remember is that reading is something we do for fun. It's a hobby, it takes time, and it's meant to be, you know, done for pleasure instead of just forcing yourself to meet certain deadlines or goals. And I definitely felt a bit stretched for time with finishing the books on my TBR in this vlog, and I'm sure there are other people who would maybe relate to that feeling, especially with the end of the year approaching. There are just a lot of these situations where we're like, clock is ticking, we should just rush ourselves, we should be reading more. But I'm here to tell you, stop. You know, take a break if you need it. If you don't want to, then don't read. If you want to, and only if you want to, then you should be reading. Anyway, it feels kind of ironic to be talking about how I have a reading slump at the beginning of this vlog and then proceeding to read a bunch of stuff that didn't really help deal with the slump. I would also like to add that I definitely think that you should check out the Housemaid series if you haven't before. I know that I was very critical of the short story which I read in this vlog, and I think I have good reason for it. But yeah, there were some disappointing reads in this one, but I think now you know what you need to go do. Read A Dark and Drowning Tide. Do it, do it, do it, do it. This is your sign. If you were waiting, don't wait anymore. Thank you for watching and supporting this channel. I hope you'll consider liking and or subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment below to tell me what you're reading this week or what you're planning on reading. Winter and Christmas is approaching, so maybe you have some exciting wintry reads planned. I would love to hear about them. Have a good day.